Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We are your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today we are talking with Brianna Shade. Brianna is a millennial who started off on the typical correct path and eventually she felt called to adventure and left her job as a software engineer to travel full-time. Fast forward to today, and Brianna is an entrepreneur with a kitty crochet business, and she helps others embrace their inner geek and have fun while making cute plush kitties. And through her business, she's also donating regularly to her local nonprofit cat shelter. And Brianna, we are happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I'm excited as a couple of fellow crochet nerds here. We're excited to have you here.
Yay.
And we even discussed how can we turn this into a crochet podcast. I feel like we found that crossover.
Right. We've been slowly edging into we're now a crochet podcast.
I am fully on board with that.
And now half of our listeners are like, no.
So let me dive deep into how to make a magic circle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right? Why does mine always come out cone-shaped?
Right?
All right.
Anyway, so yes, we like to ask Google AI to write a poem for our guests. So would you like to hear what Google wrote for you?
Absolutely. Lay it on me.
This one was actually really good with rhyming this time. So Brianna Shade, a pirate bold, set sail on a journey to find her gold. She left her job as a software engineer to travel the world and meet her fear. She crocheted kitties all the way and donated her profits to the cat shelter each day. She taught others to embrace their inner geek and showed them that it's okay to have fun. Brianna Shade is a role model for us all. She shows us that it's possible to live our dreams. She is a force for good in the world, and we are lucky to have her. She is a pirate, a rebel, a dreamer. She is Brianna Shade. She is the one who we will change. She is the one who will change the world, one crocheted kitty at a time.
I love it.
AI is getting better. That was a good one. And then Google really likes you.
Hey.
Yeah, that was our best one yet.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, yeah, we'd love for you to take us on a journey. Tell us your tale of how you started out and got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, obviously it's been quite a journey for me because I've been all over the place, literally and figuratively. So as you mentioned in my intro there, I started down the typical path of, go to school, get good grades, get a good corporate job, be a good corporate cog in the wheel, all of these other things. And I was a software engineer and quite good at it. And I loved my job. However, my husband and I both felt kind of called to do something more, a little outside of the bounds of a cubicle. And so we decided kind of on a whim to simply quit our jobs and travel full time. And we did that back in 2019. We originally set out to do a 14-month trip around the world, and we hit 20 countries and 3 continents. And then everyone knows what happened 9 months later. We almost got stranded in the very tip of Argentina in this tiny little town called Ushuaia that people only ever know because it is the launching point for Antarctica. In fact, we were 2 days about to go to Antarctica ourselves when our boat was canceled. And so we had to quickly change our plans and fly home. And we've kind of been here ever since. So then my husband and I decided, well, this is a good opportunity. We'll see the silver lining for what it's worth and use this as a chance to really start our business or get it off the ground because we had been working on blogging and that sort of thing while we were traveling, but we really wanted to be self-sustained by our business. And so obviously our expertise was in travel and we were trying to launch a travel business, but doing so in 2020 probably was not the best of ideas. And so as you can imagine, that didn't go very far. But we learned a lot about business and about entrepreneurship and about ourselves in the process, which was fantastic. But fast forward 3 years, and I found myself kind of getting burnt out by that whole process of trying to build the social media and launching and putting ourselves out there. And here are these services that we provide here and there, whatever else. And so I decided to take a step back at the beginning of this year to from that business to really focus on kind of my own projects. Namely, I had anticipated pursuing my photography because that's another business that I have. I'm a travel photographer and events photographer and that sort of thing, and have my own business in there, but it's been kind of in the back burner. And so I wanted to really revitalize that. But in the process, in wanting to kind of take a break and a breather before I launched into that, I decided to crochet kitties. And back in 2019, before we had originally left, I decided I was going to crochet these little kitties made from my cat's real fur because we absolutely hate leaving our kitties alone whenever we leave and to travel. And I thought that this would be a wonderful way for us to bring a literal piece of our kitties with us when we traveled. And so we did and took pictures of them all around the world in front of Stonehenge and the Colosseum and all across Patagonia and Europe and Africa and all of those different places. And it was a lot of fun and a way for me to kind of stay in contact with my kitties that I love so very, very much. And so at the beginning of this year, when I was taking that break, it's like, well, you know what? I kind of enjoyed that project. I want to revisit that. And so I thought, well, what if I crochet another kitty? And what if I made it look like Sailor Moon? And what if I made it look like a Pikachu? And what if I made it look like this thing and whatever else? And so I started posting pictures online of these kitties. And it turns out that other people really loved them and thought they were absolutely adorable and were saying, wow, I love this. Where can I get one? Do you have an Etsy store? And so I thought, well, I guess I probably should have something there. And so I created a store and I created a website, and it just kind of blossomed from there. And then somebody recommended I start retailing at local Saturday markets, and it's all been downhill from there, I guess. And but obviously recognizing that this isn't necessarily a sustainable business because I am the bottleneck, I wanted to really create a pillar in my business that was a little more scalable and sustainable in the long term. And thus the Kitty Crochet Club was born. And so now I send out geeky kitty kits every single month. And those who are fellow crocheters can actually crochet these adorable little kitties with us every single month. And so we have a lot of fun and come together on monthly Zoom sessions to crochet together and send out the instructions and video tutorials and all of that fun stuff. And so it's just kind of blossomed into this whole geeky, crazy kitty thing that I love and adore, and it makes me so, so very happy. And I never in a million years would have suspected that this would be what I'm doing now.
Well, Karan, now you have ideas for all the dog hair that you have around your house.
Well,
So
that was going to be, without turning this into a like crochet podcast, like I have a husky and a Malamute, and I've often said, like, I wish I knew how to use their hair to
There you go.
How do you do that? How do you use your kitty's hair?
Are you actually asking the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have no idea.
Sure. Well, it's just like any other fiber. So typically most yarn is made from wool or synthetics or whatever, and you spin it into yarn just like any other fiber. And so what I personally do, I don't do the spinning since that's not my expertise. My expertise is in the crocheting and how to make it look like your actual kitty only made with her real fur. And so I outsource that and I contract with local artists who do the spinning. And fortunately, there are a lot of farms around here. They have alpacas and whatever else. And so there are a lot of people who do that and they dye their own yarns and all of that kind of thing. So it's a way for me to help support other local businesses as well, and to kind of outsource that particular piece that they would do a far better job at it. So all you do is you brush your cat's fur and you send it to me, and then I have it spun into yarn, and then I crochet these little minis that look just like your kitty, only made from her real fur. In this case, they're also made with their real whiskers.
Oh, okay.
And so I have had a number of people ask me, well, do you do dog fur as well? I'm like, sorry, I'm the kitty person. I'm more than happy to make a cat from your dog fur,
Yeah.
but I only make kitties.
Yeah.
Got it.
You gotta stick to a lane.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'll end up with tigers for some reason.
Well, ultimately, when I was originally considering it, because I was getting a lot of those questions, I asked a good friend, and she basically said, well, you have to ask yourself, if you got a sudden influx of a lot of people requesting these of you, would you be happy making them and fulfilling on those orders, or would that make you miserable? And I wouldn't say it would make me miserable, but this is really where I shine. And so I figure, you know what, I should really stay true to that, because there are other people who are just as passionate about dogs as I am about cats. And that's a good area for perhaps them to step into.
There you go, Karan.
This one's got a home, but I got this little guy. That guy.
That's adorable.
Okay, cool. Outsource. Got it. Get someone else to do it for me. I have a lot of hair in my house, so we'll just collect it into trash bags and send it out. Okay, I just want to kind of rewind back to you and your husband. You're working your corporate jobs, and you mentioned that you guys decided on a whim. Now, was there some sort of like pivotal moment or event or thing that happened that pushed you guys over the edge to say, fuck it, let's go?
So this is an interesting story, actually. And the short answer is wine.
Now we need the long answer,
which is a wonderful, wonderful catalyst for all of the best ideas. And so what had happened, actually, we had just gotten back from a trip to Japan, and it was my husband's very first trip outside of the country, like ever. He had never even been to Canada or Mexico, and we're born and raised Portland. So he had never been outside the country. And we thought, hey, why not straight to the deep end? Let's go to Japan, where they don't even speak, they don't even use the same writing system, let alone the same language. And we loved that experience, and it was so illuminating for us that it's like, wow, this is just absolutely amazing, and kind of got bit by that travel bug. And so the following April 1st, I had this fun idea that I was going to play a prank online and say that I had been accepted into the JET program, which is a Japanese English teaching exchange program, basically, that they have. It's pretty well known. You usually get certified, but you don't necessarily have to. And there are certain regulations around that. But effectively, they will put you up room and board for about a year, and you teach English in Japan. And it's a highly sought position. And so there are a lot of people who are interested in learning Japanese, who are enamored by the Japanese culture, who want to have kind of that exchange. And I thought, ooh, wouldn't that be so much fun? Yeah, I'd be interested in doing that kind of thing. Why not? And so since it had been something that I'd actually considered, I thought, well, I'm going to put this joke on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and say that I had been accepted into this program, and I was going to go live in Japan for a year. And my sister saw right through it. She's like, yeah, right, you wish. But other people were like, oh my God, that's amazing. How exciting. And oh man, what's Erin going to do this entire time? And what are you going to do with your kitties? All these questions and everything else. But ultimately I had to say, yeah, okay, yeah, April Fools. It would be fun, but yeah, not so much. And so that evening when we were sipping some wine and talking about this joke that I had played on Facebook, it's like, well, you always hear about these people who say they quit their jobs to travel for a year, or they take this gap year, or they do this thing, and what would that even be like? Wouldn't that be fun if we did that? And it's like, you know what? Seriously, what's stopping us? Why don't we do that. And then in the morning, when we had sobered up, it still sounded like a good idea. And so it's like, you know what? Let's do this. And so we set the plan in motion, but we didn't tell anybody until the next April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we announced, hey, guess what, everybody? Around 2019, we're going to quit our jobs and we're going to go travel the world for a year. And once again, people are like, whatever. Yeah, you did this last year. I'm not falling for it again. I know what day it is, whatever else. And then the next day I was able to say, okay, everyone, April Fools, except not the way you think. We are actually doing this. And so there was just this one, we got to milk that joke for like a full 2 days, even though we had to wait an entire year to even tell anybody about it. But that was a lot of fun. So there wasn't necessarily anything that just like pushed us over the edge of, hey, let's do this kind of thing. It was more of a, oh, that sounds like a fun idea. And once it got rooted in our brains, it's like, okay, we're doing this. Let's go for it.
And yeah, so it was 2019 when April 2019. And then how long were you traveling?
Until March of 2020.
Okay. So then once all the travel started getting crazy, you headed back.
Yeah,
so
we almost got stranded in Ushuaia.
Okay.
Like literally within hours, Argentina was closing their borders and grounding all flights.
Oh, wow.
So we barely made it out of the country. I was like, if we're going to be stuck somewhere, this is not where we want to be stuck. So
no. So yeah, while you were traveling, like, what were some of your favorite adventures you had along the way?
Boy, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of the most illuminating parts was how generous everybody was all around the world and all of these people that we met, because we almost never stayed in a hotel. That was not our travel style. We really wanted to connect with the locals and touch the local culture and really experience how the locals lived. And so we did a lot of couch surfing. We stayed with people who live there. Folks showed us around. We did a lot of house sitting, where we were watching cats and staying in someone's house and living in a place for a period. But I mean, there was even one guy in Santiago, Chile, and he was living with his brother and parents in this tiny little apartment right off of the railroad tracks just outside of Santiago, Chile. And he still gave us his entire bedroom to share with them. So now we were 6 people in this tiny little apartment, and he was bunking with his brother, and the mother barely spoke any English whatsoever. Showed us how to make humitas, which were basically they're kind of like tamales. So it's that made from a ground masa, corn flour and spices, and boil in its own husks. And then she would literally roll an entire shopping cart full of these humitas into town and lay them out on the street and sell them. And that was kind of how they supported their entire family. And it was just wild to see that perspective. And despite the fact that they had so little, they were still so generous as to invite us into their homes and show us around the city and give us a taste of what life was like really for them. And so just experiencing that culture and connecting with real humans around the country, around the world rather, was really humbling and really enlightening. And it taught us a lot about ourselves and the privilege that we have, obviously, here in the States, and the things that we want to pursue more in our lives. It's like, man, they're not all caught up with material goods and chasing the Joneses and all of these other things. It's all about these connections with their families and their fellow humans in their city, and this camaraderie that was just so beautiful to witness.
And for people too that are like, man, I'd love to travel the world, but I have no idea, how do you even start this? Like, yeah, what are some steps too that you took in order to be able to start on this journey?
Sure. Well, the first thing we did was we wanted to make sure we had a safety net, to where we weren't scrambling financially. And so we saved up for a few years before we actually set out. So we decided this in like 2016, and we didn't set out until 2019. So we were setting aside a good portion. I think we saved up like $50,000 was our budget, and we barely spent half that, because we're really good at saving costs while we travel. But the travel business we were working on building in 2020 was actually set out to teach other people how to do exactly that. How to kind of break away from their 9 to 5 cubicle corporate jobs, and to rediscover their own humanity through travel experiences and really connecting with cultures. And even though I have stepped away from that business, that is something that my husband is still very much pursuing. So that is still very much available for anyone who wants to pursue that kind of endeavor. I highly recommend it. And you don't have to wait until retirement. You don't have to be a 20-something taking a gap year before you go to college or whatever else. You can be 40-something in the height of your career and decide, you know what, I just need something new. That's totally okay. And so that's what we did. And we are living proof that it is possible at any age, and you don't have to wait until some magic number, age or money or otherwise, that it's super possible, it's super affordable, and definitely go while you're young and able-bodied, and still have that fire for life and whatever else. Besides the fact that I believe when you travel changes you. And the earlier in your life that you can have that happen, the more fulfilled the rest of your life will be. So I definitely encourage travel early, travel often, as much as you can.
Where was the what was the first stop?
So we decided to go as far from home as possible. So we were coming from Portland, Oregon, and we flew almost direct to Cape Town, South Africa. So we wanted to start as far away as possible and then basically work our way back. And so we spent a couple weeks in Cape Town, South Africa. Then we bumped up to Namibia and drove all around Namibia and saw wildlife and the dunes and everything else. And then we popped into the cheapest flight out of Namibia happened to be into Frankfurt, Germany. And so that got us into Europe. And then we paddled around Europe for about 9 months, or excuse me, 6 months. And then we hopped the pond down to South America, did Chile, Argentina, Patagonia, that whole area, and then COVID hit. We were planning on going to Southeast Asia after that, which obviously that timing didn't work out too well.
So do you have plans to continue on to complete the trip?
Oh, absolutely. So obviously we were interrupted by COVID, and then we got kind of sidetracked by building these businesses, which are kind of more physical, whatnot. And we've been staying with my parents ever since. And we are very eager to leave this particular environment because I want to be on our own and all of this other stuff. But we really very much don't want to go back to 9 to 5 jobs. My husband actually did take a remote job. So he is working right now, just so that we can like pay the bills, because we kind of depleted our savings and whatnot, while we were working on building the business. But he is also working on building his business on the side, while I'm working on my kitty business, obviously, as well. But our plan short term is to we want to establish a home base, basically, possibly probably in the Eugene area, but possibly in the Portland area, wherever we end up, and have that home base, something where it's like we have different units that we can rent out that will help pay our mortgage, and then our home we could possibly Airbnb when we are not home. And one of the things that we discovered while we were traveling full time was we weren't all of that. We didn't enjoy full-time travel as much as we thought we would. Instead, what we found we enjoy more is more long-term travel. And the difference being, long-term is where you go for maybe a few weeks to a month or two, and you stay in a place, and then you come back home to your home base, and then you set out again. Full-time travel is when you're pretty much nomadic and you're on the road perpetually. And with that latter option, you don't get to see your family all that much. You don't ever have like your own closet with clothes that you can like hang up for a bit. And most importantly for me, I wouldn't get to see my kitties because they don't travel well, and that's not something that you can really have them come on a Zoom call with you, you know? So they have no idea you've just disappeared. It's not like you can call them and say, "Hey, I miss you so very much. Know that I still love you and I'm coming home."
Yeah.
They don't know you've just
Yeah.
disappeared. And especially with Holly, our little gray one, she is going to be 22 in
Oh, wow.
February, which just
Oh.
is absolutely mind-boggling to me. And if we didn't have her for her entire life, I would never ever believe that she was actually 22, because she barely acts 10. You know,
Yeah.
she's so spry, so active. I love her, and she's incredibly healthy, and I think that's fantastic. But because of that, that gives me extreme anxiety anytime I want to leave. And so it's not for lack of finances, it's not for lack of anything else that I feel like we can't travel. It's simply that I don't want to be gone when she crosses the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
I feel I owe that to her to be present for that time. And
Absolutely.
we never know when that'll happen. It might
Yeah.
not happen for another 10 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could happen tomorrow. I hope not.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that we'd like to have our home base to where we can still do those shorter term travel, and bring in a house sitter to watch them on a regular basis and keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Still do those travels, but not be leaving them for such a long period of time.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. Like, two things. So this summer, I spent 2 weeks in Iceland, and the moment I booked the trip, I hadn't even left yet. I'm like, I miss my dogs.
Oh.
Like, I haven't even left yet. I had months before we're leaving. The moment I booked it, and I really, I mean, it would have been a great trip if they could have come, if they didn't have like a 30-day quarantine or whatever,
Oh,
all those other things.
oh, that's brutal.
And yeah, I also have a senior, and I, with health issues and all of those
Yeah.
things that you don't know how long he's going to be with us. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I would hate to leave and not be there
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
his end of life. So
Exactly.
totally understand those things. And
Our fur babies are our
they
babies.
are, like, Kristen and I pass childless women memes back and forth to each other all the time.
I'm child-free as well, so you're in very good company.
But yeah, these are the closest thing I got, so, and ever am gonna get. So
Exactly. Yeah, my kitties are my babies, and they're the only babies I will ever have.
yeah. So yeah, we talk a lot about good trouble on our program here. And I would love to hear from you. What does that mean when I say good trouble? What does that mean to you? And how are you creating good trouble?
Let me just say, I love that phrase. And the first time you said it earlier is like, ooh, I love that. And I can totally embody that. And so when I hear good trouble, it's kind of the personality I love to embody, mostly in the sense of I'm a middle child and I love to stick out. I love to blaze my own trail. I love to be the person everybody notices. And so you'll notice I'm wearing the cat ears, and I wear these in public. And when I went to a conference recently, we had a cocktail hour for one of the evenings, and I brought a Santa suit, and I wore that Santa suit there, and everyone was like, "Oh man, I should have brought my Santa suit." 'Cause they could see how much freaking fun I'm having. And it's like, yeah, notice me, I'm here, you know? And so I'm this kind of person that I want people to remember me for who I am, and not just blending in with the crowd and being somebody who's the same as everybody else. And so, I mean, the kitties is one of the things that nobody's doing this, which is fantastic. And I love that. And I'm sure someday that'll change and somebody will catch wind of this and like, oh, that's a really good idea. I should do that too. But for now, at least, I'm the only one doing this kind of thing. And whenever people come to my booth, you guys talk about crochet. Surely you've been to some art markets or Saturday markets and that kind of thing in the past. And you'll notice that there are plenty of people who are crocheters and they do all sorts of products, but they're all like the same kind of products. You know, they're all making the jellyfish and they're all making the fuzzy little things and they all make the chickens and they all make this and that. It's like, that's great. And people love them and they sell and that's fantastic. But then they come to my booth and like, whoa, now this is different. This is something I've never seen before. And wait a minute, you crochet them with real cat fur? Now that I've never heard of. That's insane. Like I've heard doing things with dog fur, but not cat fur. And this is like so unique. And I revel in that. And I think it's fantastic when I can hit on something that is truly different and kind of trailblazing, you know, in that regard, because like, oh, yay, I came up with something new and novel and unique. And I own that. And it's like, yeah, notice me because I'm different. But that also means that I'm kind of a disruptor of people around me because like, well, gee, you're not doing it the same way everyone else is doing it. I don't know how I feel about that. Some people are very intimidated by my personality because I'm very, very out there and I'm not an extrovert, believe it or not. I'm actually an introvert, but I'm considered an extroverted introvert to where I love talking to people and I love putting myself out there, but social situations drain me. So I need those periodic times of just sitting behind my computer and recharging for a little bit. But I have fun at anime conventions when I'm creating fun little cosplays and I do that every single day. I'm wearing a costume. I love any excuse to wear a costume. I was doing a Halloween market in full costume because like why not? It's an excuse to do so. And whenever I can get away with it, I am that kind of person that just wants to you know, go against the grain and add a little color and fun to the world, you know, because everybody can be so drab, especially you guys both here in the Pacific Northwest, you know, this time of year, especially the winter, it can get kind of dreary and gray and dull. And we all need some pops of color and life and excitement and whatever else. And I mean, I'm no unipiper or anything like that, but I totally jive with that kind of vibe. It's like, dude, I'm all sorts of on board with that. And there's a reason I love the whole keep Portland weird kind of vibe. And it's like, yeah, that's me. Or absolutely, let's do this. So kind of a long answer to your question there, but yeah, I try to disrupt things in the best ways possible.
I don't know if the Unipiper is around anymore.
Really?
I hope he is, but I don't know.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh man, there was a guy that was
sounds terrible.
I mean, we've had a few unicycle people doing things, but yeah, a guy that would ride around on a unicycle and
play bagpipes.
Yeah, bagpipes.
And wear a Darth Vader costume.
Yes.
Usually.
Gotcha.
So very out there, very strange, and my balance isn't good enough for a unicycle, but I'm totally on board with that kind of weird.
Yeah, it just reminded me too. We used to have out in Portland renegade pothole fillers because the city wasn't filling the potholes. So they would go out and they would like fill in the potholes and they'd take pictures of it and be like, yeah, we're vigilantes filling in the potholes. So I don't think we have that as much now anymore in Portland, but it was amazing when I moved out here and I was like, oh, this is the best.
That's fantastic.
So yeah. Well, yeah, you've got your business now. Tell us about it. Like, yeah, what's going on with your business? What are you doing? What are you up to in your crochet club?
Sure. So Obviously it started with the kitties and simply retailing them. And I love that. And I absolutely adore going to markets and that sort of thing because people will come up to me like, oh my God, they're so adorable. And oh, kitties. People love cats. It's fantastic. And that's great. And I mean, I actually had a couple of gals come to me a couple markets back and like college age and they started crying. And it's like, oh no, what is happening? And they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. They're just so adorable. It's like, I had no idea you could literally cry from cuteness, but apparently that's a thing. And so I love those moments and I love talking to people, fellow cat fanatics and everything else. And people are geeks and they're like, oh my God, is that a Totoro? I'm like, yes, it is. Or whatever, all of these things. And they connect with that on so many levels. And I love that. But like I said earlier, that's a bottleneck for me because I'm only one person and I can only crochet so many kitties over a given period of time. And yeah, I could outsource that if I really wanted to, but I love creating them and I love coming up with those new designs and really experimenting with the creativity side of things as much as I can. And so I really wanted to focus on that. And so to avoid falling into this trap of my passion becoming a job or becoming something that I feel obligated to and ultimately resentful of, I created these other branches of my business to help kind of diversify it, even within something so niched as geeky kitties. And so first of all, obviously, I do the kitty memorials made from real cat fur or mementos. They don't have to be memorials. These are both mementos because they're both still very much with us, including Holly, the 22-year-old. And I absolutely love making those. That's at a much higher price point, which is nice because that helps slow the demand on that particular thing and allows me to really focus on those as opposed to saying, oh, well, it's just $5. And then I get this slew of requests for them. And then I can't keep up. And then I start cutting corners. And then I can't really stay true to the passion behind it. But still, all of that is very physical in there. So that's why I created the Kitty Crochet Club, which is much more scalable. And so the idea behind the Kitty Crochet Club is basically a kit membership. So if you're a geek like me, or you just like weird things, or you love cats and you love these cute things, and you're crafty and you want to either learn to crochet or you crochet already, and you want to make these cute little kitties, then I'll send you a kit every single month and we crochet a different geeky kitty. So I think last month we did the Pikachu. This month we're doing a little Snowcat. In the past we've done a Totoro. We've done a little like Nyan Cat. The old cat meme with the rainbow coming out his butt and the stars and whatever else. I love these things and they're just so much fun to conceptualize. How do I turn this idea, this image into a three-dimensional crocheted animal, and so I have a lot of fun with that. And the nice thing with the Kitty Crochet Club is then I only have to come up with a single pattern every single month, and it doesn't matter how many people I have in my club. It's the same amount of work regardless. Now, obviously, there's the fulfilling of the kits themselves, but that is something that I could outsource and not feel like I'm taking away from my own creativity, because I don't need to be a part of that. You're just spinning balls of yarn and mailing them out. That's an easy piece. The piece that I still stay true to is creating the actual patterns, recording the tutorials on how to make them, and coming together monthly for our crafty hours that we do over Zoom, where we all crochet together and on whatever projects that you're working on and get help with the monthly projects. And so I really love the club in that regard, because I'm able to help so many more people and bring these adorable, cute kitties to so many more people through the Kitty Crochet Club. And I have both a physical and a digital version of that as well. So it's accessible to anybody all around the world.
That's cool. And so where can our listeners go to find out more about you and your Kitty Crochet Club?
Absolutely. So all of the information on both the kitties, I have an online store, the memorials, and the Kitty Crochet Club is all on my website. And so my business name is Kitten Kazoidal, but I don't expect anyone to know how to spell that. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. My website is actually just kittyminis.com. So tried to make it super, super simple.
Yeah.
And everything is linked from there.
Imagine if you did the kitten kazoidal, you'd want to have like all sorts of misspellings to redirect people.
I know. I mean, ultimately, that is still my business name. That is because I named it after my kitty Zoe. So it's like Kitten Caboodle, but it has Zoe right in the middle there. And so Zoe was kitty prior to these two that we have here. So she crossed the Rainbow Bridge back in 2015. And she was actually my 16th birthday present, and I loved her so very, very much. And so my business is named after her in her honor.
Yeah, and is there anything that we haven't talked about yet today that you want to make sure like our listeners know about?
I did also want to mention that if you join the Kitty Crochet Club, or you buy any of the kitties or any of the memorial kitties or anything, any funds that come into my business, 10% of everything, all pillars of my business goes directly to the cat adoption team up in Portland. You're probably familiar with the cat adoption team up there. It's where we adopted our Mochi, the little tuxedo kitty here, and they're doing fantastic work. They are actually the largest cat-only shelter in the Pacific Northwest, and they have found forever homes for thousands of kitties. They have an in-house veterinarian, so they can really do all of the spays and neuters as soon as kitties come in. They're a no-kill shelter, and they are doing fantastic work for the community. I believe they have a trap, neuter, release program as well. Just all of these things to really help cats find their best homes, to control the stray populations in Portland, because that's not a place I would want kitties outside. In the winters especially, it can get kind of brutal. And the traffic and everything else. So I am not in a capacity to create a nonprofit myself or anything like that. So I once again prefer to outsource that to somebody who is far better at that than I am. And Cat Adoption Team definitely does a fantastic job. So I did want to mention that 10% of all proceeds goes directly to them. So whenever you make any kind of purchase, your money helps real cats, as well as getting a kitty or a kit or any of those things as well. And then I did also want to mention that for the Kitty Crochet Club, depending on when you're listening, I do also have some holiday options right now that you can gift the Kitty Crochet Club. I have a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month offer at the moment.
Oh, fun. And with it, I did have a question about the Kitty Crochet Club. So with that, when people sign up for it, they get the yarn mailed to them, and then they have the pattern and they get to show. So yeah. So that's what they would expect basically, is mailed the yarn and then everything else.
And then if you've never crocheted before, or even if you have, the first kit is free. It's a starter kit. It includes just the basic kitty. So none of the fun little geeky kitties. You'll get that right away. And it comes with all of the crochet tools, and it teaches you kind of the basic pattern that everything else builds on top of. And then around the first of the following month is when you'd get your first geeky kitty.
So fun. So yeah, if you want
I have way too much fun with it.
If you want to learn how to crochet it, haven't yet, and you want an actual more like not podcast, like how we joke about our podcast turning into crochet podcast, go to Brianna. She can actually help you with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So before we go, our final question that we ask our listeners, you're not a listener, you're a guest. How would you recommend our listeners go about starting their own pirate life?
I think the biggest thing is identify what is your unique spark. What is that one thing that you do better than anyone else, that you are truly passionate about, that nobody could ever take from you, that you would never get sick of, that you light up whenever you talk about it, whenever you think about it, whenever you consider doing anything related to it. I would start there and find a way to bring that into your life on a daily basis and find a way to then share that with other people. I think that is the best way for you to be true to yourself, because we're all unique individuals. And I think at the core of being a pirate is not succumbing to the temptation to be, everybody else and be part of the masses. And so the best way for you to be a pirate and to stand out and to be that unique human that you are, that beautiful individual person, is to find that thing that really sets you apart from anybody else. And for me, it's geeky cats. And for you, it can be anything. It could be dog fur. It could be the unipiper. It can be whatever you want. But find that one thing, because when you are so passionate about these things, you light up, and that you can't help but infect others with that positivity and with that light and that excitement that you bring to that particular thing. So that would be my advice.
Great advice.
It is. And thank you for sharing your light and your excitement with us today. It was so much fun talking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.